We're live now.
Hello and welcome everyone to this special episode of the Coaching Mosaic, the shortcast hosted by ICF Delhi NCR Charter Chapter. I'm Neha Sharma, your moderator for the event. I'm an ICF certified leadership and executive coach. Today's conversation is part of our chapter's 10-year celebration, a decade of insights, impact, and illumination in coaching. Thank you. We invite you to engage in the chat, react, and reflect with us throughout the session. Our theme for today is DEIB Ripple, Voice, Visibility, Value. We are going to explore how DEIB isn't just a corporate initiative, it's a ripple that starts with voice, grows with visibility, and delivers value to all. Here's how I would like to put it. Inclusion is like planting a tree. Voice is the seed, visibility is the sunlight, and value is the fruit that nourishes everyone around it. With that, I'm delighted to welcome our host and today's conversation lead, Kenneth Wheeler. Kenneth is the Director of Community Service at ICF Delhi NCR. He's the founder of Sela Consulting Solutions, a LinkedIn top voice, and an executive and leadership coach by weekday and a soulful songsmith by the weekend. Kenneth, over to you.
Thank you so much, Neha. As always, you light up the stage. And I loved the analogy that you used of it being inclusion is like planting a tree. And I think that sets the space for us to have a meaningful conversation. So with that, let me now welcome our esteemed guest speaker for the morning, Harish Iyer.
Hi, Kenneth.
Hey, Harish. Thank you so much for making time and being here. So Harish is a leading voice in India's LGBTQIA+ rights movement, known for his unwavering commitment to equity, inclusion, and systemic change. As Senior Vice President and Head of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at a leading bank, Harish has pioneered industry first initiatives such as the hashtag Come As You Are charter, pause for bias sessions, and inclusive policies that recognizes diverse gender identities and family structures. His work has redefined corporate activism, embedding empathy and intersectionality into the fabric of workplace culture. A long-standing advocate for queer rights, Harish was a petitioner in the Supreme Court's marriage equality case, championing the right of LGBTQIA+ individuals to marry with dignity and legal recognition. His activism is rooted in lived experience and a belief that inclusion must be intentional, not performative. Recognized globally, including as the only Indian on the Guardian's World Pride Power list. Harish continues to shape the public discourse through writing, policy engagement, and mentorship. His leadership bridges the personal and the political, ensuring that equity is not just a value, but a practice. Thank you so much, Harish. Welcome to Delhi Chapter's LinkedIn Live conversation. It's a pleasure and honor to be speaking to you today.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kenneth. Thank you so much.
All right, so let's get started, Harish. I'm very excited for our conversation. And as an executive and leadership coach, I always love to ask our guests and get them into a reflective mode. So when we say, Harish, that DEIB is a ripple, We believe that the voice starts it, visibility spreads it, and value is what sustains it. What comes to your mind as you hear me narrate this statement?
I think DEIB is the essence of humanity. I I don't think it's more of a corporate jargon as much as it is about something that's true to life in general. Um, we all in all corporate companies we boast about values. We boast about
Yeah.
the fundamental values that every corporate stands for, and at the core of all these values should be the fact that we respect everyone, we see everyone for who they are, and we make amends and adjustments to ensure that people who are othered are no more othered, right? So whether your corporate value is customer experience or customer centricity, or whether it's about it's your corporate value is about any other aspect, about agility, about business acumen, or anything. At the core of everything lies DE&I, and DE&I, diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging is the core of humanity. So it's not it's something that fits in with humanity in general. So it expands beyond the frontiers of corporate borders as well.
Thank you. And when you say it's the core of humanity, it takes me to this article from Forbes that was published in April 2025, where a lot of leading organizations, the likes of IBM, um, Walmart, they have been under this Donald Trump's policy of executive policy. Are some of them are rolling back the DEIB policies, or some of them are completely taking them away? What's your take on that, Harish?
I can only tell you, so I wouldn't be able to comment on what were their compulsions on. I can't teleport myself into their brains or their organizational structure, but I can definitely tell you that the organization that I work with, and for us, it's been a non-negotiable, and it's been a program that we continue to foster. um, and we it might take different forms because DEIB is a polymorph. As we grow, we take different forms, and so do these organizations that you mentioned. Also, no one can ever come out and say that, you know what, today we are not going to be inclusive. What does that even mean to say that we don't have policies on DEI or we are rolling back? What does that mean to say? Are you, is anyone going to come out and say that from today onwards, from this moment onwards, we are not going to be inclusive to anybody? It's just not, or we are not going to hire people because they look different, or they're um, they're because of their PWD status or anything of that kind. None of the organizations that you mentioned, or even other organizations, are actually saying anything like that. So, what does rolling back really mean? Is for us to understand and have our own interpretations on those things. But as far as I know, and I can speak from the space of my organization, we are not rolling back. We are rather rolling out um, um, a carpet for people, a red carpet for people who are different, not just as employees, but also as customers. So I think it's a time for rolling out. I mean, if you're tomorrow, if I was to tell you, Kenneth, that you have a huge population base who could be your consumers, who happen to be from the LGBTQI plus community, and the Ipsos study actually puts India at 17%, 17% of Indian population could be from the LGBTQ community. So if that is the kind of numbers that we are talking about. And if I was to tell you that, tell all corporates, including mine, that this is the huge consumer base that you could tap into, are you going to say that you're not welcome? Are you going to say that we can do without your business? Or if I was to speak about women, if I was to say that women make 50% of India and they make 50% and they have the potential to become 50% of your consumer base, are you going to say we don't need that consumer, we don't need those profits? Are we going to say that? That would be a bold statement. But none of us are saying anything like that. And not just for consumer statistics, even for basic principles, I think we have to be inclusive, we have to respect diversity, we have to foster a culture which has equity, and you have to go to a workplace where you belong, and those would be the workplaces that you long for, because those would be the workplaces which respect you and which make provisions for you so that you can belong over there. Where the longing is, there the belonging is. Mhm.
Absolutely, absolutely well said. And this last statement, Harish, I think would have landed so well with all the coaches that are on the call and would be listening to our recording. Because for us as coaches, one of the key contribution that we make to other our clients and other individuals is to help them bridge the gap of who they are currently and who they aspire to be. So there's always this conflict between who am I as a person today, what is my identity, and who do I really believe within me is my identity and what I stand for. So I think you've just beautifully summed up that equation, that it's about bringing your inner self to the core. And I loved what you said, lay out a red carpet for those who are different. Thank you. I'll move from here, Harish. Before the global recognitions that you've had, your corporate charters, and the different policy changes that you've been a part of, you were a voice, you were an individual voice to begin with. Can you take us back to where your DEIB journey really began?
I think I've never worked in a corporate space. This is my first at the age of in my early 40s was my first corporate job. Um, I've never worked. I worked in the agency side. I worked in the NGO side, in the social impact side. I never worked with the corporate. Um, but it was almost like my entire life prepped me for this. Um, because what are corporates? Corporates are microcosms of society at large.
Right.
So you find people who are from different communities, from different religions, from different castes, different creeds, different physical abilities and physical disabilities and mental disabilities. You find all of them in society. Your corporate, though you might be neatly picking these people, is not bereft of what exists in society. It's a microcosm, it's a mirror to society at large. So all the things that I did in society, all my activism is what I do internally as well. So I would pick up the phone on you if I saw that you have a team and you have no women in the team. I would, if there is a time when I see the potential of looking at customers who are different, I would pick up the phone on the product team and check with them what are the different things that we can do to expand our product scope for this community. Um, I think, and this is what I have been doing. Life has been prepping me up as well. So as an LGBTQI plus individual myself, as I got accustomed to different identities of myself, whether it was about my gender, my sexuality, or the way I live my life, people whom I call family, which includes my dog and cat. Um, the way I envisioned life, the way I lived my life, And the way I stood up, I was not an activist by choice. You become an activist by life. You become an activist by life because life preps you up. Like, I had to fight. If I had to live, I had to fight. Whether it's about the rights of the underdogs, I had to fight because I was one of them. And when you fight for being one of them, you also become an activist of sorts. But the real activism lies in the fact that if you live truly and unabashedly and truthfully, right? That's the truest form of activism. To live your life truly and unabashedly is the truest form of activism. That's what I did in my personal life. That's what I continue to do in my corporate life. So there is this wave. I know corporate activism is considered as a negative, with a lot of negative connotations, as we are going to remove our jhandas and go out in the streets and fight with people. But
Hmm.
corporate activism is needed, and people who listen and value these voices that emerge, that call to power, that pick up the phone on senior leaders and tell them that, hey, I don't think you're doing enough, and to have the ability to stomach that you would have someone junior coming up to you and telling you that, hey, we need to do this a little more, we need to be a little more tighter. You probably need to use the word, the many a times you come from the corporate coaching space, Kenneth. Many a times the language that many of y'all use also, okay, is problematic. So many a times the customer would become a he, the employee would become a he without you realizing,
Hmm.
right? So
Right.
I would be in the front bench pointing out every time you say he, and I'd say that use the word them, or at least move from he to she, because if you can't use it in your words, you can't use it you will never show it in your action. That's why that's why you see most of these ads that you see, whether it's a detergent ad, you used to have all women going and buying detergents, because in our consumer conversations that we had internally, in all the training programs that we have internally, all the coaching that's done internally, we only looked at it from the male gaze. So
Hmm.
DEI and DEIB is not something that's a buzzword. This is something that we need to put in our in not just our HR strategy, but in our business strategy, in our coaching strategy. And I think uh, you require people, activists, corporate activists, who sit in the audience and who point out. I'm not saying that I'm any perfect. I also fall into these traps quite often. But I'll rely on you to correct me, and I'll rely on you to also have the heart and the ability and the wisdom and the maturity to listen to someone junior who would sit over there and tell you that, hey, I think you're going wrong. I think your language needs to correct itself.
Yeah. Wonderfully said. And at times, so much of it happens unconsciously, like you rightly pointed out. And I just got reminded, Harish, before all of us, you, me, and Neha were prepping and just checking the tech and everything is in place. I made a statement very casually to Neha because where she was sitting, it was a little dark. I couldn't see her face, and I ended up saying, "Neha, can you make yourself a little brighter?" And you caught on to that, and you said, "That's not right. Make yourself a little brighter." So I completely understand what you're saying. The other pulse that I'm picking up from your conversation, Harish, is the importance of being the best version of ourselves. So, somewhere being true to ourselves is the most positive way that we can impact outward. And everything that you've spoken on corporate activism, it leads me to my next question. When we look at corporate DEIB narrative in India, specifically, if we look at home, it has largely been influenced by Western thinking. So, my question to you is, if we were to really look at this issue from a pure India or Indian lens, what are the issues which we need to focus on more?
I think I think corporate activism and DEIB was always there in the Indian parlance per se. Just that we didn't call it DEIB, or we didn't give it a
Given, yeah.
program. We didn't have funds allocated. It's been a part of the Indian ethos, and when I say Indian ethos, I mean all Indian ethos, whether it's Hindu, Muslim, Christians, or communities, smaller community, LGBTQIA plus, heterosexual, women, Dalits, Bahujan, Adivasis. All of this, all of this diversity is what makes India's culture. And plurality is something that India has always believed in. And as I said, Kenneth, corporates might think that they are some divine force, that they give jobs or anything of that kind. But the truth is that they're just microcosms, they're just mirrors of society at large. No matter how many people you pick and choose, you're still drawing from the same society at large. So if I was to tell you that you know uh, your some of your coaches could be from the LGBTQI plus community, but some of your coaches could also be homophobes. It'll not be untrue, if I would say so, right? And
Right.
so the truth remains that if we are drawing from a nation which has believed, at least the tenets of our constitution stands for intersectionality. It stands for it stands for different voices that emerge from different spaces, and which looks at the last human standing as well, the least common denominator as well. If that's been the ethos of this nation, if that's been the constitution of this nation, then we were all ready. And if that's what we are following, then if those are our founding principles, if there are, then that's already something that that we are following. America has founding fathers. We have founding people and our founding parents, because there have been a lot of women who have been involved also, and who knows, probably they didn't come out a lot of LGBTQ people as well over there, right? So who have founded the constitution of this nation. So if that's where we base, so India has always had the foundation of this thing. I think what the West has done is they have branded it beautifully, and not taking away from anything that the West has done. They've done a fantastic job of it, of making it into a product and a category and a and a space where we need to focus on. But we don't have to look west side. We just need to look inside. If we look at our own constitution and the way it's drafted, and how plurality. I was recently at the Constitution Library in OP Jindal, OP Jindal, the institute, and I did see not just the men but all the women as also who had contributed, all the Dalits, Bahujan, Adivasis who had contributed, all the Hindus and Muslims and Christians who had contributed to the Constitution. So if that's the core of the nation, then we already have DEI imbibed. Just that we didn't call it by that name in our this thing. And what do we need to focus on? Every aspect. Which aspect is unimportant? Many people say that, oh, we'll look at women first when it comes to diversity. Then once we ease that out, then we look at LGBTQI plus people. Oh, wo ho gaya. Then we look at PWD people. Okay, and then we look at, and then if it doesn't get too controversial, we look at uh, Muslims, Dalit, Bahujan, Adivasis. So when should the so when will the turn of this person who happens to be a Muslim Dalit person who is of lower caste, who is on a wheelchair, who is a wheelchair user, who also happens to be who also happens to be of a low income group, and who also happens to be a transgender man.
Mm.
If this is that person whom you're waiting for, how long should that person wait to get on the scene to find employment? If we are following this hierarchical pattern where we'll do this and then we'll do this and then we'll do this and then we'll finally get to that person. So all our corporates and all of us need to work on that least common denominator, um, who could be from the Dalit Bahujan Adivasi community, could be a Muslim person, could be somebody who happens to be on a wheelchair user, and who also happens to be from a low income group, and who also happens to be a transgender man. If you can fight for
Mm.
that person, you're fighting for everyone else. The problem is we have these hierarchical patterns in corporates, and sometimes it's by design, sometimes it's by effort on what you can do and what you can do. You can prioritize a few things, but never is that one person that I spoke to you, which has all the intersectionality. Never is that one person less important than everyone else.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And one thing that truly stands in everything that you've said so far is that you come with a very high level of awareness, resilience, and purpose in your conversation. And even for us as coaches, we've seen how intentional conversations can shift mindsets, can shift cultures, and importantly, can also shift lifestyles, of how we want to show up for ourselves. So thank you for sharing everything. Coming to the heart of the session, where we're saying, how can coaching amplify the voice, expand this visibility of DEIB, and translate it into value? So there was this survey from International Coaching Federation in 2023 that says leaders who've received structured coaching reports 48% higher engagement scores compared to those who don't. So my question, Harish, is, in your experience, how can coaching empower marginalized voices to be heard at the decision-making table?
Um, I think first of all, I hate the word empowered. Okay, your question should be, how can coaches be empowered by marginalized voices?
Wow,
That should be the thing. Once
awesome.
we once we move from that, from us and them, okay, and one of the things that most coaches lack today, and probably it's the design, because corporates give us money, and there is a certain language that corporates use, and corporates have been very shy to take some roots. They're always scared to take some roots. So in our adaptation with the corporate language, coaches have sometimes forgotten that there is a human aspect attached to it. How are coaches learning? How many transgender people have coaches gone and spoken to? It might not be. You might not be doing a project just for transgender people. But how many persons with how many of your coaching material is actually accessible for people who are deaf? Deaf people make 4% of the population, right? And while I say all this, I know fingers would be pointed at me and people would ask me, how equipped are you? Probably I'm not. But I'm willing to
Hmm.
accept that I'm not, and I'm willing to learn more. So the only question that coaches need to ask is, how many different voices have coaches spoken to? And in your training programs, I know you have extensive training programs where you have, and I get incredibly bored sometimes. I'm not a big fan of corporate jargons, and sometimes coaches amplify those corporate jargons. 4 ways of thinking, 5 ways of doing this, some acronyms and stuff that I learned in school. But as we grow as individuals and human beings, how many more communities are coaches speaking to? How many people from marginalized communities, from disadvantaged communities are coaches speaking to? How many of them are coaches getting trained by, rather than training those people? How many of you have got trained by those people, right? So we think of a we think of a we think of patterns and heuristic patterns. My boss Rajkamal Vempati, who again speaks with a lot of difficult words sometimes, used this word which I had to Google. She said that she said we need to break heuristic templates. Okay, फिर मेरे को सर्च करना पड़ा कि क्या है heuristic क्या होता है. Okay, probably that's a CHRO thing, you come up with difficult words all the time, but a lot of meaningful stuff. So I said that, are we fitting into patterns, or are we creating creating more pathways? We often fit into patterns. We fit into asks that corporates have. We don't focus on the tells and brandings that we could do, right? I think I think if you can go back to, instead of saying what we can give you, if you can ask them what you can give us, there is a wealth of information that you get from the Adivasi community. There is a wealth of information. You might just, we all are tribes, right? When we speak about all these things, we all are speaking about fitting into a tribe. Have you really gone, when you're speaking about the tribal mindset of fitting into certain boxes, again, to borrow from a lot of coaching jargons that we use? How many tribes, real tribes, have we actually gone and spoken to? How many of them have walked into ICF and coached us? I think that's something that we need to do. I don't think we have real people learning. We live in these artificial worlds that are built in corporate glass houses, uh, and we mirror those. Okay, that's my Sonia also agrees. That's my dog.
Yes, she does. Wow, this was inspiring, thought provoking. It's got me thinking into so many directions, and I'm sure the audience, especially the coaches, would have loved every bit of what you said, specifically us and them, on how we place this. And I can't get over what you said. We should be empowered by people who are marginalized, and it's not really me asking how I can empower you. That's left me for a good
No,
food for thought.
we use that thing in CSR also all the time. I
Yes.
hate the word empower. I mean, these words, I said, who the hell are you to empower me? Okay, I can empower you. Okay, so especially when you go to a blind person, okay, who's navigating through the streets of Bombay, getting into a local train, and I had this person, somebody speak about that, oh, we want to create an empowering environment for you. I said, अरे तू क्या मेरे को empower करेगा? You get empowered by her. She's navigating. You do one time, put a blindfold and travel by a local train. Okay,
Hmm.
so you not be able to do that, and you often use this when it comes to persons with disability. Don't use that word. It's so pissing off. Hmm.
Thank you for being so authentic and so vulnerable and expressing as it is. And again, just the recognition of who I am truly and letting it shine out so beautifully. I just love to applaud you, Harish. So I'm going to shift gears a little bit as we come closer to the close of our conversation. And just on a lighter note, few questions I'll shoot at you as a rapid fire round. And short
Super.
answers, one word, and let's see where that takes us. So the first one, Harish, is one DEIB win you're most proud of in the last 6 months or a year?
Um, in the last 6 months, now we are focusing on LGBTQI plus as consumers. We're working on a research on that. We've been working for quite some time. That's something that I'm really proud of. You'll hear about it very soon.
Brilliant. Look forward to it. A song that describes your journey.
Um, I think I think "ए दिल है मुश्किल जीना यहाँ" जरा हटके जरा बचके ये है बम्बई मेरी जान. I think I think my journey has been the journey of Bombay as well. It's good, it's bad, it's ugly, but it still has a lot of heart. Mhm.
Absolutely. Beautiful. What's one mindset shift every leader must make to truly, truly live DEIB?
I think language shapes thoughts and thoughts shape culture. So if you can just pay attention to language, you will be shaping culture. And just get rid, speak in the plural all the time, and get rid of this mindset where you uh, refer to people from a he parlance. It's Sudhamurti had applied, and that's when there was a notice which said that no women are there. But today you have ads which show women as the decision maker. Don't pigeonhole. Don't pigeonhole communities, because you're not pigeonholing communities. You're pigeonholing your thoughts. Let the
Perfect.
bird free. Let the pigeons free, and feed them too.
Feed them too. That's important as well. Thank you. Thank you, Harish. And one last bit before I invite Neha and we pick up few questions from the audience as we best can, given the time. Of everything we've discussed today in this short but intriguing and eye-opening conversation in many sense for me, what's the one thing you hope every listener remembers a month from now or 3 months from now?
The onus of inclusion lies on those who are included, not on those who are excluded. Just remember that. If you have to include people, don't expect those who have traditionally been outcasts
Hmm.
to fight for them. Open the doors, invite them. That onus is on you. The onus of inclusion lies on those who are included and not on those who are excluded. And also remember this uh, famous quote from W.H. Auden, which says, "If equal affection cannot be, let the more loving one be me."
Brilliant. Let the more loving one. You keep. No, we coaches love to put people in a thought-provoking mindset, and you've taken me right there. So I love every bit that you're saying. Thank you so much. With that, Neha, if I can invite you back on stage, please, to take us to the closing.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Kenneth. And thank you so much, Harish. I guess everybody, including me, is just in awe of, this entire conversation. We love the authenticity with which you spoke. So just before we wind up, we'll just take up a few questions. So the first question that comes from our audience is from Shivraj Prasad, and his question is, Harish, how do we expand that tribe to reverse mentor us, probably as coaches?
Thank you, Shivraj, and I've been a great fan of Shivraj. I wasn't looking at the messages when they were popping, so um, I think don't expect um, people from marginalized communities to come to you. Go to them and build greater awareness on in from a corporate mindset. Build greater awareness, and it takes corporate activism to do that. Build greater awareness to remind people that people from these communities also, whatever these communities could mean, are also a major part of the population and a major part of the consumer base. Probably that'll get more attention on this. Um, that's what I've been trying to do internally, build this awareness that they are a part of the consumer base as well, because then the buy-in becomes easier. And go to them to learn. Don't expect them to come to you to teach. That's the truest form of reverse mentoring.
That's very well and very beautifully put. Go to them to learn. Don't expect them to come and teach you. Wonderful. Thank you for that. And we move on to the next question. This comes from Archana Parmar. With that point, I'm intrigued to know what conversations about inclusion and belonging are not yet happening in India, but must.
I think we are still very shy to speak of religion and caste. Um, and I think those conversations, if it's not happening in the public domain, at least it needs to be imbibed in policies and practices within organizations. I know that people could be a little shy to speak about these things publicly because of how it could spin politically, but internally, these conversations should be a part of the organizational DNA, even without specifying it in so many words. Maybe if at least to ensure that there is recourse for everyone is something that and your organizational DNA, policies and DNAs, the policies which form the DNA of your organization mention all these things becomes incredibly important. Oh, that's Sonia.
Sonia agrees as well. Thank
Yeah.
you, Harish. So, we are already standing at 11:41, and in the interest of time, we'll be closing the session. So, thank you, Harish and Kenneth. As we reflect on everything we've heard, one thing stands clear, that this is just one of the conversation in our Coaching Mosaic shortcast series. Hence, everyone, please follow ICF Delhi NCR to stay tuned for more stories of impact. Until next time, stay curious, stay kind, and keep coaching forward. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah. And
Thank
stay
you, Neha.
sexy in thoughts and stay sexy and inclusive in your thoughts.
Thank you, Harish. We just would love to go on, but hopefully we can have you back with us. I think it's just been so wonderful speaking to someone who's spoken every word, not just from the heart, but from the soul. It just connected so deeply with me, and I'm sure with all our audience. So gratitude and grateful for your presence and for your conversation. Thank you so much. Stay
Thanks,
blessed.
Kenneth. Thanks, Neha.
Thank you.